Sound of cracking ice and howling wind, North Atlantic, 1716. For 99% of ships, this sound is the beginning of the end. An icy prison means a slow death from cold and starvation. But on this ship, instead of panic, there is silence and order. The captain doesn't order a struggle. He initiates a secret survival protocol that will turn this ice tomb into an impenetrable fortress. Now, we will dissect this protocol piece by piece. To understand the stakes, recall the real expedition of Sir Hugh Willoughby in 1553. His 2 ships were trapped in the ice, and the entire crew of 62 men froze to death. The pirate protocol wasn't just a plan. It was a cold-blooded chess match against nature itself. One wrong move meant the same fate. It's not just the cold that kills, but a systemic collapse where every hour counts. The ice slowly crushes the hull, causing microfractures, but the main enemy is within. Hypothermia is a cascading failure. At 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees F, uncontrollable shivering begins as the body burns its last reserves. At 32 degrees, 90 degrees F, amnesia and disorientation set in. Below 30, 86 degrees F, most lose consciousness. In the icy wind, the body is like a machine that shuts down suddenly and permanently. Even naval fleets avoided wintering in these latitudes, considering it a guaranteed death sentence. Their survival system rested on 3 pillars, each one contradicting common sense. First, a diet that would kill an ordinary person but gave them supernatural warmth. Second, the use of rum not for recreation, but as a precise tool for psychological management. And third, the most ingenious part, breaking all conventions of seamanship, how they turned useless sails into their primary source of life. This system could be called the unholy trinity of survival. In essence, these are the same principles used by modern polar explorers: calorie management, psychological resilience, and insulation. The only difference is that pirates discovered them 200 years before official science through trial and deadly error. The protocol began with a paradoxical command: freeze. The captain knew the main enemy wasn't the cold, but the loss of calories. Any unnecessary movement, any panic, meant burning precious fuel. The crew entered the state of a hibernating predator. This isn't laziness, but a deliberate strategy that scientists call voluntary hypometabolism. Imagine every calorie is a gold coin. A panicked run across the deck is like throwing handfuls of those coins into the sea. The order to freeze was an order to stop the hemorrhage of energy. This was the first, most crucial step, to control the body's primary resource. Now, they had to replenish and multiply it. The first source of heat was the men themselves. They were gathered not on the deck, but in the tightest, driest, and most wind-sheltered compartment of the hold. The crew would lie packed tightly together, creating a single living radiator. Watches were changed not for work, but so that those on the cold outer edge could move to the warm center. This wasn't a pirate innovation, but a fundamental law of nature. Emperor penguins in Antarctica survive in exactly the same way, huddling in a dense crowd and constantly rotating positions. The pirates, without knowing it, had copied the most successful survival mechanism on the planet. The second source was controlled movement. The crew was given monotonous but not exhausting work, slowly hauling ropes, polishing brass until it shone, scrubbing planks. The goal was not the result, but the constant, low-intensity muscle friction that generated heat. The main enemy was sweat. Wet clothing sucks heat from the body 25 times faster than dry clothing. Their task was thermogeneration without perspiration. It was like keeping an engine idling, so it wouldn't cool down, but also wouldn't overheat. A delicate balance on the edge of life and death. Try an experiment. Place your hand on a table. Is it cold? Now, rub your palms together for 15 seconds. Feel the heat? You've just used the basic principle of pirate physics. They simply scaled it up to 50 men, 24 hours a day. What's the simplest, monotonous thing you would do to stay warm in a locked, frozen room? Write your idea in the comments. This is pure physics, the direct conversion of chemical energy from food into thermal energy. The pirates turned their crew into a single, slow-burning 50-cylinder biological engine. But even the most powerful engine is useless if its heat escapes into nothingness. The task was not to heat the entire ship, but to create a sealed capsule within it. All the cracks in the living quarters of the hold were caulked with oakum and rags and sealed with tar. This created an airlock that trapped the heat inside. Still, air is a terrible conductor of heat. The pirates were building a ship within a ship, creating a primitive but effective escape pod. But even the most perfect thermos will cool down if it has no internal energy source. The external methods only preserved heat. To produce it, the pirates relied on a diet that a modern doctor would call a deadly poison. It was a ration with an extreme content of fat and salt. In normal life, it's poison. But in a frozen hell, it became the philosopher's stone, turning pork fat into the gold of metabolic heat. Forget about vitamins or balance. The cook's sole mission was to load the maximum number of calories into each sailor's furnace. The foundation of the diet was salt beef and pork fat. Hardtack was soaked not in water, but in rendered animal fat. This wasn't food, it was solid fuel, burning slowly in the stomach and releasing immense heat. Let's look at the numbers. 100 grams of lard is about 900 calories, almost twice as much as pure sugar. This isn't sustenance, it's an energy brick. The same principle was used by polar explorers Nansen and Amundsen. They knew that in extreme cold, the king of fuels is fat, not carbohydrates. Pirates carried spices as cargo. But here, pepper, cloves, and ginger became medicine. A pinch of pepper in a fatty stew triggered a chemical reaction. The capsaicin tricked the body's receptors, creating an illusion of warmth and accelerating blood flow. It was a legal performance enhancer for the circulatory system, a neurochemical hack. The capsaicin in pepper activates the same nerve receptors that respond to an actual burn. It's like setting off a fire alarm in the brain to force the body to rush blood to the burning areas, warming the organism from the inside. Let's look at this through the eyes of the ship's cook. He wasn't a chef, he was a thermal engineer. His job was not to make tasty food, but to issue the required kilojoules to each crew member. Every piece of lard was a log for the internal furnace. Every pinch of pepper was a catalyst for combustion. Whether these men would wake up tomorrow depended on his precision. He wasn't working with recipes, he was working with the equations of survival. The bodies were warmed and fueled, but the most terrifying enemy lurked in their minds: apathy, fear, and madness. In psychology, this is called sensory deprivation or expedition madness. It's a psychological abyss where the brain, deprived of stimuli, begins to devour itself. And the cure for this was stored in barrels, marked with a skull and crossbones for a very good reason. The first thought is that pirates drank rum to stay warm. This is a fatal mistake. Large doses of alcohol dilate blood vessels, causing the body to lose heat at a catastrophic rate. Getting drunk in the freezing cold is a guaranteed way to freeze to death. So what was the secret? They used rum not as a beverage, but as medicine and ritual. Vasodilation creates a false sense of warmth. It's like throwing open all the windows in a house during a blizzard to get warm. The initial rush of heat to the skin is your core temperature, your life, escaping into nothingness. It's a physiological lie for which you pay with your life. Rum was distributed on a strict schedule in microscopic doses. 1 small cup, always diluted with hot water and spices, creating grog. This dose was not enough to cause intoxication, but was sufficient for a psychological boost. It provided a warming sensation and a sharp taste that distracted from the gloom. Most importantly, it was a predictable, small pleasure the crew looked forward to all day. This wasn't alcohol. It was a controlled, predictable dose of comfort in an uncontrollable world. In fact, this is the same grog that Admiral Vernon would officially introduce to the British Navy, but not until 1740. Pirates were using it as a tincture to maintain morale long before the admirals. The distribution ceremony itself was sacred. The captain, or his first mate, would personally hand each man his portion. It was a daily ritual that reinforced hierarchy, order, and the fact that the ship was still under control. In a world where everything had collapsed, this small island of stability kept the crew from descending into anarchy and despair. In survival psychology, this is called a structuring ritual. It imposes a predictable pattern on chaos. The absence of such rituals on the doomed Franklin expedition led to a complete breakdown of discipline and cannibalism. The daily ration of grog was the glue that held the crew's sanity together. How realistic is this? We don't have a pirate's diary with an entry saying, "I'm microdosing rum to boost morale." But we have irrefutable circumstantial evidence: the official grog ration in the Royal Navy, the documented dangers of intoxication in the cold, and the very fact of their survival. It's like finding a complex watch on a beach. We can confidently conclude that its creator understood how it worked. The same is true here. The ships that survived were commanded by captains who understood the fine line between medicine and poison. But when the wind intensified to a gale, piercing any insulation, and even the rum ritual couldn't save them from the chilling terror, the pirates deployed their ultimate secret weapon. They would build a shield from something that seemed utterly useless on a stationary ship. They would apply a method that could be called geotechnical engineering in miniature. If you can't stop the storm, change the environment around you. In the cold, it's not the number on the thermometer that kills you. It's the wind. It's a cruel multiplier that physicists call the wind chill factor. A temperature of minus 10 degrees Celsius, 14 degrees, with a 30 km/h wind, 18 mph, feels like minus 20, 4 degrees to the skin. The wind is a thief that constantly steals the thin blanket of heat your body is desperately trying to create around itself. The pirates needed to build a fortress against this invisible thief. They took down the heaviest, most useless sails from the yards. They lowered them on ropes over the side, directly into the icy ocean water. The fabric would instantly coat with a glassy layer of ice. Then, this giant frozen sheet of canvas was hoisted up and secured to the windward side of the ship. They were building what could be called a cryo wall. Ice is a surprisingly good insulator, but more importantly, it turned the flexible canvas into a completely windproof and rigid monolith. They used the enemy's own weapon, the freezing water, to create armor. Now, the wind battered against a solid wall of ice, not the vulnerable wooden hull. Other spare sails, soaked in tar for waterproofing, were used inside the hold. They were draped over the living capsule like a heavy blanket, creating an additional layer of insulation. The result was a cocoon inside a thermos, a multi-layered defense system that reduced heat loss to an absolute minimum. This is the same principle of layering that makes a modern down jacket work. They created several pockets of still air. Outside was the ship's hull, then an air gap, then the inner wall of sailcloth, and only then the living radiator of men. It was a Matryoshka doll of warmth. This system was the pinnacle of engineering born from desperation. It turned the energy of the enemy, the cold and the wind, into a defensive weapon. All these disparate tricks, the diet, the discipline, the insulation, came together to form a single, cohesive survival protocol. It wasn't just a collection of tricks, but a system where each element reinforced the others. The high-fat diet fueled the human furnace. The cryo wall protected that furnace from the wind. And everything was managed by a tincture of morale made from grog. Let's codify this protocol, which could work anywhere, into 4 ironclad rules. We've broken down the tactics, but their power lies in the system. This is not a set of life hacks. It's a philosophy based on a single principle. Don't fight the elements, use them. Don't waste energy warring with the cold, make the cold serve you. This is pure survival Aikido. Don't block your opponent's force, redirect it. Here are the 4 unbreakable laws of this protocol. The first law concerns energy. Minimize its expenditure through inaction. Maximize its production through high-calorie, fatty food. Your body is a furnace. Don't let anyone or anything waste its fuel. Every calorie counts. This is the law of caloric economy. The human body is a highly inefficient engine. Up to 75% of burned calories are lost as heat. In normal life, this is a waste. Here, this byproduct becomes the primary goal. You eat not to live, you eat to burn. The second law concerns the psyche. In the midst of chaos, create unbreakable order. Predictability is your anchor. The daily distribution of grog, the changing of the heating watches, a shared meal at the same time every day. Discipline and ritual are more important than empty hope. Their enemy was not the ice, but a mental vacuum. A brain deprived of tasks begins to devour itself. Ritual filled this vacuum, giving everyone a predictable purpose and meaning in the middle of meaninglessness. The third law concerns insulation. Don't try to heat the whole world or even the whole ship. Create the smallest possible but absolutely protected living space. Seal it, insulate it, defend it at all costs. This is the law of the microenvironment. Forget the 30-meter ship. Their entire universe shrank to a 5-meter box in the hold, lined with sailcloth. The integrity of this cocoon was more important than the integrity of the vessel itself. The fourth and highest law concerns adaptation. Use the enemy's weapon against them. Turn water into ice and ice into a shield. Turn useless sails into walls. Don't just endure the elements, find a way to make them work for you. This isn't just adaptation, it's what could be called anti-fragility. The system doesn't just withstand a shock, it becomes stronger from it. The wind gets stronger and the ice shield gets thicker. This is the pinnacle of survival evolution, turning a threat into a tool. And now for the ultimate question that defines everything. What do you think was the decisive factor in this protocol's success? The brilliant engineering ingenuity of the captain who devised it, or the iron, almost animal, will to live of the crew who executed it? Was it the spark of genius, or the slow-burning fire of endurance? Write just one word in the comments, ingenuity or will. Let's see which one wins.